Hey everyone, welcome back to Path to Victory. My name is Isaac, and today I have a guest that I met briefly at LVO, and whose list I thought was really interesting. So I thought having him on would be great for an interview. Uh, he got ninth at LVO with a very unique Thousand Suns list. Dan, why don't you introduce yourself?
Hey, my name's Dan Maloro. I took the 30 Terminator list to LVO, um, playing Warhammer for about a year and a half, mostly on Thousand Suns. I live in the Philly area and I play for Team Dumpster Fire. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, I'm super excited. We'll start off with I'm just gonna kind of like take from the top, just like go over the list that you brought. If you just want to run through like what your list was.
Sure. So I'll start with the core of the list, which is 30 Scarab Occult Terminators, so 3 by 10, all being led by sorcerers in Terminator armor. It's really important that they're led. Scarab Occult Terminators get a bonus of a flat -1 to be wounded, as long as they have a psyker in the unit. And in Rubricate Phalanx, which is the detachment I took, one of the strongest stratagems is anytime a psyker dies, any unit within 6 inches of that model can shoot back. So it's really important to have two psychers in each one of your Scarab bricks. That way you can deliberately kill off the aspiring sorcerer to trigger that shoot back stratagem without losing the -1 to be wounded. From there, because it's kind of a stat check army, it's really important to play into the stat check. So I brought a Demon Prince on foot. What he does is he gives everyone stealth, so you now have essentially 33 -1 to be hit, -1 to be wounded, and built-in Armor of Contempt Terminators. He's also good because you're deliberately killing off your own psychers. Uh, he has a passive where he'll eat the soul of any psyker that dies near him until he ends up being as good at casting rituals as Magnus. So he kind of synergizes in with that game plan of killing off your own psychers early to trigger more shootbacks and get more activations out of these big bricks. Um, Rounding out leaders, I had Armin. Armin really does like three things for the list. He's normally not a very good unit. People don't take him in Coven. But in this list, there's kind of three important synergies. One is he's your early +1 to cast. It generally takes a turn or two for that Demon Prince to get up to speed, which means for your absolutely critical spells, turn 1, turn 2, Armin is your caster for them. Um, Two, one of the enhancements that you get in the detachment is a free infiltrate. So you're going to infiltrate, one of your three Terminator bricks. Armament will let you kind of have some shenanigans with that during deployment. You can basically spread it across the entire map if you deploy first, completely screen out enemy infiltrators, and then redeploy it somewhere that's actually like a sane position for it and not just strung across the middle. And finally, he's a chaff piece. The army is really tight on activations. There's only 10 units. So when you draw stuff like recover assets, cleanse, it gets a little bit harder to do those secondaries than it would in like a list like a standard coven list. So he is just a fast moving body that can do actions, hold home objectives, just kind of do stuff for you.
Yeah, it makes sense.
Um,
Uh, So I guess rounding out the trash, you had like kind of four different unique trash units. Was there any like specific choices between like you had the spawn, the Zangors, the two different um guys on disc? I must take a guess. The two guys on disc were probably just how it worked out with points. But was there any particular reason you brought the spawn and the Zangors?
Yeah, so I think the spawn for me was important. Linchpin was one of the later missions. I think it was round 4, round 5. I'd have to go look at it. And one thing I've been seeing a lot more in the meta is Tau with SMS missile spam. If you look during the matches of LVO, there's a really good video. I think it's round 3 of Derek versus Tau, where he gets basically all his Poxwalkers get indirected off the board turns 1 and 2, which kind of forces him to play with real units. I wanted units that could not be SMS'd off the board. So spawn with their ability to heal back at the end of every turn with their 4 up, 5 up, 5 up. To me, I said, okay, look, if I do run into something like Tau or like an indirect heavy guard list, these are things that I can hold my home objective on Linchpin, and not give them the option to kind of chip away at me and force me to put multiple units back there just because I was so tight on activation.
Yeah.
The 10-man Zangor in general, one like Scarab Cult Terminators really don't mind getting into melee as much as normal Thousand Suns. Their melee is actually pretty good. It's about 35 attacks with lethal hits, most of them at the 5/22 Blade Guard vet profile. Um, so they don't care as much, but you still really don't. You still want something to screen when you need it. So those were kind of my early screening and scout unit. So if I hit something that did have melee that I don't necessarily want to be touched with turn one, they would kind of just run forward and screen out for me.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So that really covers like your list in general. Kind of covered some of those unique choices like Armon. What do you think of like the general like the biggest strengths of your list? Like why did you choose this list for Delvio?
So the way I looked at it is I brought this list because kind of, in a response to the nerfs. So I wasn't always a Rubrikai Phalanx player. I played the standard Coven, 18 Bogos, double Mutalith Vortex Beast, kind of the normal Thousand Suns list at Nova. That was what I traditionally played. With the, it's not so much why I took this, it's more why I didn't take Coven. So for me, the recent spell changes made the reroll a spell strat almost a mandatory taking Coven. And to me, that was kind of the straw that broke the camel's back in terms of CP management. There's no CP generation in the Thousand Suns army, and when you look at what does Coven want to do, it wants 2 CP for Magnus to give him rerolls. If you're exposing Magnus, it wants 1 CP to blank a damage. And then it also wants 1 CP to reroll a failed spell every turn because it's a very synergistic detachment where, hey, you're taking Bogots which need reroll hits, and most of the time if you're exposing them, you want to give them bonus armor pen. Sorcerers are only AP 1, so they need bonus armor pen 2. You're looking at double move and duo. It's really a detachment you want to get all your spells off every turn. So now you're in this awkward situation where I need 4 CP a turn and I'm only getting 2. And in the
Yeah.
past, that wasn't as big a deal because you had challenger cards where you could say, okay, I'll deliberately choose to not do a secondary. It'll my opponent will have to respect the fact that I'm not scoring points and also not score points because that's how challenger cards work, and it's kind of gross. And I can use that to supplement my CP economy. But now the challenger cards are gone. And don't get me wrong, it's a great change. They weren't healthy for the game, but you can't really abuse that fact to make up for the fact that your army CP starts. So the way I looked at it is there's going to be a fail point for the spells where, I'm either going to, I'm not going to roll what I need. And in Rubrikai Phalanx, the ones you really care about are reroll hits, which is just a breakpoint of 10. Oftentimes you only need to get the little one to get most of the value. Whereas in Coven, you're using Magnus, so you have +2 to cast, but you're going after +2 AP most of the time as like your critical spell. So to me, it's like, okay, I'm gonna fail either rolling a 10 on 3d6 or a 12 on 3d6 plus 2. It's literally the same odds, but at least if I fail in Phalanx, I have this incredibly tanky like army that maybe I can just kind of custody scam my way out of trouble. Where it's like, hey, look, I'll just make 4-ups, it'll be fine. I'm really hard to kill. Where in Coven, if you expose your units and you fail that, well, you're like 5 tactical marines in a trench coat at the price of a land raider, and it's gonna go really badly for you. So that's
Yeah.
kind of how I got on the list of saying, okay, I do similar damage. I'm taking units that are just generically good that can hurt anything. you know, 58 shots with lethal hits is a hell of a profile when you're going into stuff. So I said, okay, the damage is there. It's tanky. If I fail my spell, it's not as big a deal. And that's kind of how I got on the idea of that list.
Yeah. Having the all the units that like natively hit on twos, just the real ones, you're like you're fine with, and having that backup durability seems like that makes a lot of sense.
Yep.
What so you talked about like why you chose. What are some of the I guess it's not a perfect list. Like you did end up you did made it really far, but you did lose in the after the shadow round. Was it the what would you think of the weaknesses of this list? Like what do you think like
Yeah.
just reasons they might not be like the perfect list?
So there's really two weaknesses of the list. One is the fact that you are only 10 units and they're relatively slow moving. So it's really hard when you're on maps that you can't threaten the two natural expansions by holding the center. It's a lot harder to kind of stop your opponent's game plan because, you know, for better or worse, your plan really is like you want to march 3 bricks of Terminators, hold the center, protect them with the Demon Prince, and be able to threaten both your natural expansion and the opponents. So on maps like Layout 4, especially on Search and Destroy, where you really don't have a good way to get behind that building protecting the natural expansion without having to like deep strike part of your army and break it off. Those are tougher to deal with. The other area where it really struggles is mass damage 3. So there are some armies like CSM Packbound Zealots. I put it in like my little write up for the Thousand Suns Discord where, hey, the game plan for that one is, look at your opponent in the eye, be like, hey man, how many points do I get? And then go grab a beer and don't stress that match because you're not winning.
Yeah.
Where one Forge Fiend with crit fives, reroll hits, lethal sustain is just gonna pick up like a full one of your bricks, and there's really not a lot you can do about it, especially with their 18-inch loan up strat. So
Yeah.
it does have some truly horrendous matchups. But I think the neat thing is a lot of the matchups that were traditionally awful for you become laughably easy. So I'll give an anecdote at Challengers Cup. I played the list into the 80 Berserker world leaders list. And turn one, they do what world leaders do. They basically run at you, they clear your chaff. I just kind of waddled my Terminators up, like right up to the blobs of Berserkers. I shot them all. I let my opponent blood surge into me, and then about halfway through the fight phase, they realized, oh crap, I only
You,
wound him on sixes now,
yeah.
and he's saving on twos.
Yeah.
And you just don't really care if people charge you. Like stuff like Emperor's Children, which is a nightmare matchup because of their speed. The Terminator's just like, hey man, sounds good. Come on in, brother. Like, let's
Yep.
do this.
I'm saving on twos against all your infractors. He said the only thing that does damage to me is Demon Princes, and you only have so many Demon Princes. And Terminators are like the main source of Terminator damage is the damage one, which is not impacted by that -1 damage. So yeah, yeah, it makes a lot of sense. Like the especially that Berserker matchup is like very hard for Coven. Like you flamer half a brick and then you lose a brick squad, versus like you shoot the entire brick dead pretty much with your shooting. You like the last like 5 guys go in and do no damage. Yeah,
Yeah. Even when you get charged, like Karn's unit will kill maybe like half your Terminators, and then
you still
it's like, okay,
Terminators.
cool. My melee profile is 522. Your Space Marine bodies. Like, let's
Mm-hmm.
do this.
Do you want to send 2 CP on your turn to -1 damage just for me to fall back and shoot you again? Like yeah,
Yeah, exactly.
yeah, okay, that makes a lot of sense. So I guess from looking at this list, I've put in a few like practice games list, and I've been enjoying it. One of the things I noticed is like the deployment for this list like matters quite a bit, like the infiltrate and like reserves and stuff like that. In general, how are you playing like that infiltrate brick? Are you playing like really aggressive, like put it like on your opponent's expansion ruin, like on search and destroy, something like that, or like are you putting it in position waiting for those reserve bricks to come down?
I think it matters a lot on the opponent. So the number one thing you got to look at that's kind of tricky with this list is figuring out how many bricks of Rubik's or Terminators do you want to start on the board. There's some matchups like Imperial Knights where it might be hard for you to kind of, hide all your units, especially if they're in index detachment where they have assault, where you might have to just start one unit of Terminators on the board and then two in reserve and try to doom drop your way out of it. There's other armies that have the option to press you much more aggressively, where you're kind of forced to start two units of Terminators on the board because otherwise, say you go second, they have two full turns to kind of try to pick up that lone brick and really whittle you down.
Hmm.
So I think kind of step one is determine like what kind of game plan is it, how many do you have to start on the board, and then from there it depends on layout. So stuff like layout one, if you can infiltrate into that center ruin and really just kind of set the tone from round one, I own the center of the board, you generally do it unless they have something, super scary that's going to threaten you. Like if they have a bunch of like damage three, like if it's Dark Angels and they have the Lion that can charge that ruin turn one, not as good of an idea. But if you can get there like relatively safely where they don't really have something that's going to come kill those Terminators turn one, you take that center point, almost every time. And then, sometimes like layouts four, layouts two, where there's those side ruins by the opponent's natural, it really all comes down to if they can't threaten that spot turn one, you can infiltrate there and then kind of flip the map and play Dawn of War instead of whatever your layout is. And you'll have two good staging spots that you can press forward from.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Um, one of the advantages of the list, you are using that redeploy from Armon. I'm assuming often you're redeploying the infiltrate brick to like you first drop, you deploy across the board so they can't infiltrate, and then you redeploy it where you want it. What else are you usually redeploying? Are you starting Terminators on the board and then picking them back up and put in reserve, or like are you just like moving around your trash units?
Yeah, so most of the time it's Terminators. It'll almost always be the Infiltrate brick, and generally what I'll do is every deployment I'll start with 2 Terminators on the board, and if I run into a situation where I want to only have one on the board, say Imperial Knights is the matchup I most often do that, I'll use my second redeploy to pull that one back to reserves. My third redeploy is normally the Demon Prince, where if I have to adjust where the Terminators go because he kind of babysits them,
Yeah,
I will readjust him to get to a position where he can give them the Stealth Aura and eat the soul of the Aspiring Sorcerer when he dies. If not that, it will generally be like, a lot of times you don't use the full three. It'll be those two, and then sometimes you'll readjust the chaff unit, just, maybe tweak something based on what your opponent did. But those are kind of the big two that you normally do will be the Terminators and the Demon Prince.
makes sense. And then I guess speaking of the difference, like one thing I noticed during playtesting a lot is I was like kind of pushing him like for my playstyle, I was pushing him like a little bit aggressively, kind of acting basically using him to ask the to bring like things in the kill big stuff in to try to get him with his 3-inch loan up, sending next like Armon Terminators behind the wall. Say, like you have to come with the 12 inches kill us, then I kill his Terminators. Were you playing him more aggressively, or were you playing him more like stand behind the Terminators, waiting for making sure that stealth stays the ball game?
Yeah, it'd be matchup dependent. It just depends entirely on how important that stealth aura was. If you're playing against something like maybe you're on like Kalyan where they have ignore modifiers on all of their relevant shooting, you can
Who
play him a
cares?
little more aggressively.
Yeah,
Yeah, so he's not providing as much benefit. But if you're playing something like Eldari's a big one where he just absolutely bodies their shooting. Same with stuff like Guard. Anyone who the stealth is really impactful, I would baby him a little bit, especially Eldari. Like
yeah,
pre-measure the wave serpent, make sure that there's no way he's taking fire dragons. Make the fire dragon shoot terminators and
which
just
is
be like,
so
cool.
bad for them. Yeah,
You hit on fours, you wound on fours, and I shoot you back and kill your whole unit. Like, good luck.
yep, that makes a lot of sense. Um, this is and I'm circling back to kind of the mode. So I think we've kind of covered a lot of this here. So we'll just briefly touch on it. But you in the Discord write up that you did, which I thought was really well done. You kind of covered the two different modes, and if you can like kind of briefly go over that again here.
Yeah, so I kind of broke down matchups in two categories. Category one was, armies that cannot kill 30 Scarab Occult Terminators, and those matchups are relatively straightforward. You're a very aggressive list. You don't want to play like the normal Thousand Suns list. So like either turn one or turn two, you're looking to make an aggressive push to the center. You're bringing in at least 20 of your Terminators. Maybe you hold one in to threaten like a rapid ingress play, but you are coming to stand in the middle early. You want to bully them off primary. Like you are the aggressor. You want to be going first. The idea is come out, kill as much stuff as you can, and basically like you're asking the question. You're saying, I'm gonna score a 15 on primary. I hold the center. I hold my natural. Here's 20 Terminators. Like they will shoot back
Yeah,
at you if you try to interact with them. You know,
yeah.
balls in your court, opponent.
I noticed how much like how actually high this list scores on primary because 30 Terminators just standing on the objectives. It's actually a lot. Unless you're playing like against like guardsmen, like it's so the investment to like take that objective off you without getting overwatched or shot back is like so much higher than like most armies have available to easily.
Yeah, it's very fun to play because after playing like regular Thousand Suns for like a year, where you're like primary is kind of whatever. I'll max secondary and maybe I score 15 on my last turn. It's nice to be able to just be like, all right, no, we're going. Like
Yeah,
we're in the driver's seat this game. No more reactive play. Kind of the second army is, or the second mode is when you look at their list and you say, oh, they can kill 30 Terminators. And that's a little trickier. That's kind of where your main out is to doom drop their pieces that threaten you. So you want to pick what parts of their army you don't like, whether it's like they have a couple Forge Fiends or, maybe they have Chaos Knights and you're looking for like the Daka Knights with the 3 damage battle cannon. And you're saying, okay, for that mode, you kind of have to take turn one off. This is when I'll mostly start 20 Terminators in reserve. Um, if I can get away with it. Again, it depends on how aggressive they can be turn one. And that's when you try to doom drop the big. So you'll put 10 on the board. You either use that, if they can screen you, you kind of have to use those 10 as bait to get them to come out and play. Or if they can't screen you, something like Knights, you're just going to come all in at once. And then on turn two, you're bringing down 20 Terminators, hopefully within rapid fire range of whatever you're trying to kill. You pray to God your reroll ritual goes off, and you try to kill that one or two things that threaten you, and then you play the game from there.
Makes a lot of sense. Yeah. Building off of that, like, what is your general target priority? I'm assuming just the big flamethrower kill thing is damage 3. But, like, is there anything else like you're really looking for to like kind of clip out with like the 40 bolter shots? Like if you're coming in clipping an angle or something, like what's like the thing you think most important to kill?
So I think the big thing is just getting value out of it. You got to understand the army has like really only 3 activations worth of like good shooting. Yes, the demon prince can pick up chaff. Yes, Armin will sometimes do some stuff on his own. But the idea is you have to look at those 3 bricks and say, okay, like, it's still Thousand Suns. It's still a puzzle. Your new puzzle is how do I get the most value out of 3 units? And you're gonna, basically assign the shooting wherever you can take the most material away from the enemy. Obviously, the priority is if they have stuff that kills your Terminators easily, kill that first. But after that, you're trying to just trim them down to size so you don't get activation locked. Like one of the ways to lose for this army, it's kind of what happens in my games versus Wesley on guard, is if they can just kind of ignore you, run past you, go stand on objectives, do their activations. If they have enough units to do that, that is a way you can lose the game. So priority 1, things that kill Terminators. Priority 2, take as much material away from them as possible.
Yeah, I guess I haven't noticed that because one reason that I play versus like Tau in this practice game is like he put out 2 Riptides and then uh I dropped down my bricks. I shot 2 Riptides, 1.5 Riptides to death between like 2 of them. Charged in, split fire to kill 2 trash units, and kill 2 Riptides and 2 trash units, and that was like 5 kills with three bricks, and then they didn't have things to kill.
Yeah.
Okay. How often are you like? I assume you're often like trying to split shots like with things like shoot 40 bolters at one thing and the chain cannons and rockets at something else. Uh, I'm assuming that's something that happens quite often. Like, how often are you trying to like get the overkill, like making sure like I kill this unit versus like, oh, I can be a little bit greedy here, like split shots.
So generally what I'll do is if I can line up redundancy, I'll be greedy on the first activation because I have the backup of the second unit to see how it goes. This is especially relevant because like, almost a third of your shooting, you get the 2 Soul Reaper cannons and the rockets are at 24 inches and only on 2 models. So while you want to get like all your other rubrics into rapid fire range, you can be a lot more flexible, or not rubrics, Terminators. You can be a lot more flexible with where you put your 2 heavy weapons guys. So kind of a common pattern is maybe I'll split my, brick 1. I'll maybe split like 6 or 7 of my Inferno Bolters to a chaff unit, and I'll say, all right, hey, maybe I kill them, maybe I leave 1 or 2 alive. I'll put the rest in the primary target, and then the next brick I can split off the 2 Soul Reaper cannons to clean that up if I don't pick it up on the first go.
Okay, makes a lot of sense.
But
And then I
in
guess
general, like
yeah,
it's better to overkill a unit and deny them activations, especially when it comes to secondary scoring, than it is to like leave 1 or 2 things alive that can kind of be annoying for you later.
yeah, because they require a whole lot of activation in a future turn.
Hmm.
I guess we're circling coming back into like the Doom drop turn, like when you're going your committal turn, like one thing often people use deep strike is the rapid aggressive terminators. I found like some of the practice games often you're not rapid aggressing, you're just like dropping 9 away, 6 double moving and shooting, or like because you advance and charge 1 brick. Sorry, no, if you advance to shoot 1 brick, you move 1 brick forward to charge something, and then the other brick comes down and 6 moves to shoot a weird angle that they aren't planning for because people don't really can't doesn't really think about like basically a 3-inch deep strike off terminators if that's something they're really planning for nowadays. Are you often using the rapid ingress off reserve, or is it just that 6-inch move with the drop to reserve?
I think it's about half and half, right? If you're using the rapid ingress play, that's normally the brick that you're trying to get into melee. And again, it just really depends on how is their screening and what do they leave open. You are, like you said, you're perfectly happy just regular deep striking the Terminators and using your double move to get in. Kind of important to remember the way double move is worded. You can't actually double move 6 inches. You
Yeah,
can only
sorry. Yeah,
go
you
5.
do just move the
You have
5.
to
Yeah.
move there. Yeah. But again, like 4-inch deep strike is kind of hard to screen, and you can get some cool angles where people maybe understand what your rules are, but don't understand that like what you can do with that in practice. Where you can say, okay, I come down 9 here, I move 5 here, I can now see the thing you didn't want me to see.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. Do you ever start anything else off the board? Like, do you ever start the 5-man Rubiks? Are they all ever in strat reserve?
Yeah, I actually almost always start the rubrics off the board. The reason for that, kind of 2 things. One, 5 rubrics, like the normal Umberlific crystal play pattern from Coven and Cult of Magic back in Index, where it's like, hey, you have to guard your home objective until these are on the board. Umberlific you could do any turn, but just bringing 5 rubrics off the back line will clear out most home objective holders, and they can double move themselves onto the point, which is
Yep.
normally a really big threat. Again, like the whole idea is you have so few units that it's really important that you stress out your opponent and make them hold stuff back for screening. So those rubrics are a great threat. If points are if you can bring them in from reserve where you can rapid ingress onto a point, score some easy primary that way, it's always good.
Yeah.
Basically they're going to come in and they're going to try to fight for like a side objective or the opponent's home objective. I start them in reserve like literally almost every single matchup, unless I'm against something goofy like Crute Hunting Pack or something where their shooting is going to be very relevant early in the game.
Yeah. I've been doing that, wasn't making sure I wasn't too crazy. But yeah, it feels like they're like just really good, like reserve threat because worst case scenario, they're lay out one, they drop in reserve and shoot their expansion objective and kill like do like 5 damage to a rhino or like kill the trash unit or whatever.
Yeah, they're just really solid for 105 points. And
Mhm.
again, it's a caster that you really don't care if if you want to push it for and take some mortal wounds, it's really
Yeah.
not a big deal.
Overwatch plus shoot back with rubrics is often not going to
Yep.
happen because using Terminators, but if it does happen, it is very funny. Uh, all right. As the two last things we'll really cover here, I guess the first one is spell priority. Like, what are the most important spells for you, and like what are you generally trying to cast first using like that the Demon Prince or Armon using the bonuses.
Yeah, so it's almost always reroll hits, right? It depends on your target. There's some armies like if you're playing Eldar, you don't need big reroll hits. But again, like jokingly, I lost the match at Challengers Cup because I rolled with Armin a 4 on reroll hits, so I rolled 3 1s. And I was just like, well, all right, like fuck me then. Um, so that's always the number one spell you want to get off. After that, it's a little more situational. It can be double move. Um, it can be Doom Bolt, but realistically, it's like you use your big cast on reroll hits just to make sure that goes off. And then from there, it's kind of like, hey, Doom Bolt is nice to have, bonus AP is a nice to have. Um, really depends what you're going for. Like some targets, like if you're going against like a rep X or like a 2-up, like a Land Raider, like 2-up save, maybe they have access to Armor of Contempt, then you're going to prioritize that bonus AP. But again, like a lot of opposing models, like AP2 just across the board is generally going to get the job done or be close enough to their invul and save that bonus AP won't matter. So it's really situational after that. But your big one is always reroll hits,
Yeah.
especially if the thing you're shooting at is above T4.
Okay. And then last thing we'll cover, I guess, for the list, for basically everything, is the stratagems. So I guess looking at stratagems, there's really seems to be three that are like really, really good and three that are like kind of not great. Because I imagine -1 damage on Rubrics, you have a single Rubik spot, you're probably not using that basically ever.
Never.
-1 to wound on Rubrics on the charge phase, never use it. And then I guess you might, every once in a while, you might give Strength 5 to the Terminators, but like, when
No,
does that ever matter?
not for D&D. It's so in all the games I played with this attachment, I have never used a single one of those stratagems every time. I'll laugh with kind of my opponent about it. I'm like, I have this great stratagem. It's going to turn all my bolters psychic. I have no interaction with the psychic keyword, so we're not doing that.
Woo!
It's really just hey, the ones you use the most, probably most often used is 1 CP, give your unit assault. Moving Terminators 16 inches and then shooting is wild when you tell people at the start, like, hey, by the way, my Terminators can go 16 inches and then shoot. They'll be like,
Yeah,
kind of look at you sideways, like, wait, really? Number 2 strat, shoot back. It's kind of like the one broken thing that the army has, where just the power level of that you get a full activation shooting with 58 shots is just
yeah,
it's a game changer. I've won some matches just based off the strength of that strat. And then the third one that you'll use, and again, it's only relevant if you're kind of in a melee matchup, is fallback shoot and charge.
yeah,
And that can be, in the matchups where that one's important, it's devastating.
yeah. It's just important you don't get, because you do have a decent amount of melee, but it is only 30 attacks ish hitting on threes. So like, if they're minus to hit, or like they have like they charge you with 20 cultists, like this definitely world you don't kill all 20 cultists, and then you're stuck there
Mhm.
with a 400-point unit. So yeah, that fallback strat, I think it's probably one of the important ways that attachment actually works.
Yeah. It's kind of, a lot of the times I get the question, like, why don't you just play this in Coven? Like, those two strats, fallback shoot and charge, and advance and shoot, are the reason why.
Yeah, and then unlike an index, you can't actually give these guys psychic weapons and rerolls anymore because two different they split into two different attachments. You can't actually do the full. Also, it would be 3 CP if it was, or 4 CP
Yeah.
now. But yeah, it doesn't actually really have that same side of things. I guess for like core strats, I imagine you don't really care about any of them super hard, except for probably maybe sometimes a heroic, and then the Overwatch. I imagine those.
So actually, one that gets overlooked but is actually really important is go to ground. Especially when you look at stuff like the Knight the Spoilers that have the 10-1-3 battle cannon. That's actually a huge game changer when you can say, all right, cool, like my unit's back to saving on twos.
Yeah.
And
Eh,
Terminators are infantry, so they're good to use it. So go to ground. Heroic Intervention also you can use that for free movement. A lot of the puzzle is like, how do I get these slow moving 5-inch move Terminators up the board? So sometimes you'll heroic just to kind of like get a brick in a better position. And then, like you said, fire Overwatch. You're averaging 10 wounds on your Overwatch, so
hmm.
you actually do have a very relevant Overwatch threat.
Yeah. There was a game I played recently versus I played the list versus Votan. I Overwatched, killed 3 Hearthguard in Overwatch, and then shot back, killed another 6 over Hearthguard. So that's like 300 points of Hearthguard dead in their turn.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Uh,
Anytime you get the triple activation where you can bring a brick down, be like it shoots in my turn, it Overwatches in your turn, and then it shoots back in your turn. Is just that's value right there. That's how you win.
okay. Well, that's basically all the overall questions I want to do. And then I just want to, for a few minutes, hop into TTS and actually like kind of show like how you, there's 2 maps you pulled out, which fun enough are the maps from LVO, like the one you think is pretty good, one you think is pretty bad, and just kind of just go over how you actually do on that. All right, so who we have here is map 1, Tipping Point, which is we played this at LVO. Was like day 1 was all on Tipping Point using this list. So as you mentioned, thing this like your corner ruin here, like this is the infiltrate spot. I'm on this map pretty much all the time.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, you are pretty much the only difference you're gonna have here is whether you want your guys infiltrated actually up on the wall where they don't really have a melee threat. Maybe they're primarily a shooting army. You can get like 6 guys there and kind
Yep.
of
And you
good
could
here.
literally get into the deployment with a double move and assault on turn 1, which is
Yep.
incredibly funny. Uh,
Yeah. I mean, it's incredibly threatening to it. It really forces them to play differently. And you're just saying like, I own the center of this map. Generally on this map, unless you're against something like knights, which can kind of get your deployment turn 1,
yeah, with another
you're
break in
gonna
here.
have Yep, you're gonna have another brick gun in here, and apologies, I'm not doing it like
Yeah,
super precisely, but you get the gist of it. You're gonna put some here, and then between these 2 bricks and one in reserves, you're threatening, hey, I can come 16 inches will get you to here, which is like literally on their objective, shooting into their ruin, or
mhm.
16 inches can get you all the way up to their
Yeah.
deployment zone or shooting anything behind their staging area.
Do you want to put something on the objective? It's gonna get shot. And then I'm gonna Demon Prince just like stands here, 3 inches away from
Yep.
Terminator, stealthing both guys.
Exactly. Yeah. So you'll string back. It's really important the way you string back for this unit. So you always want to string back. The normal pattern is like the wishbone, where you have guys like this, and then the rest of the unit kind of up here doing whatever.
Hmm.
You don't want to do that wishbone pattern with these. What you want is you want to bring an extra guy down here. You almost want to have it like double stacked like this. The reason being is you want to be able to kill off this sorcerer
Mhm.
without breaking coherency and without losing your stealth mode.
Yeah, that makes
And you want
sense.
him within 6 of the demon prince. So you're gonna have like these 2 guys both 6 inches away from the demon prince, and then these 2 guys both 2 inches away from your non-sorcerer. So generally the idea would be the first guy you kill is gonna be the sorcerer, and then now you're in like the traditional wishbone pattern of how you
Yeah.
string out.
One thing I noticed, like in practice, is often you don't want to string too far out with this unit because the more you string out, the easier it is for them to like grab a line to a single model and kind of avoid that shoot back. You
Yeah,
kind of want to be
100%.
close together, so so that way if they're shooting you, you're like getting most of the unit shooting back.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, but I think this map is fairly self-explanatory. I think the map that's probably the one was a little more difficult was that layout 4 map. So let's just reset it here, load that into layout 4, and then this one was on search and destroy for the most of the day. So yeah, as you kind of already noticed just from looking at this map, the safe spots to drop here, like there aren't as many. Like you can put like I got some stuff behind this ruin. That's like the only safe ruin to put aggressive. Um, I imagine often like if it's circuits or armies that don't have the speed to actually cross this, you can just infiltrate behind here, and that seems very very good.
Yes. So the problem with this layout, and kind of touched on it earlier, is that especially on Search and Destroy, you have this area in the back where I can put the demon prints, where from the center of like where you want to be playing this army from, I can't interact with that demon prints. It's more than it's more than 16 inches away, and you can't really get line of sight effectively to it. So it becomes much harder to kind of threaten your opponent's natural. And then, like you said, against aggressive armies where you need to start 2 units of Terminators on the board, there's nowhere to hide the second brick, and especially there's nowhere to hide Zangors. Like this here is not a spot. Really, your only spot that's your deployment zone is right here. You can get, it depends on like which terrain you get, but you can get like
Yeah,
6 to 8 in there, and then you're putting 3 or 5 kind of on the back, doing something like this, where you're stringing back a little bit to get coherency and
yeah,
cutting the angle with that. So what I ended up doing for a lot of the matchups here is what I did is I called it just flipping the map to Dawn of War, where exactly like you described, I would either put Terminators here, or if they didn't have the speed, I would kind of move up on this wall and string back a little bit,
yeah. Because they're
and
like
I would
like say like a Marine tank army, like maybe get like one Redemptor like up here, and then like everything else can't even shoot you. Like nothing can reach this alcove, and then you're off the deployment zone, and then
yep.
you're getting the same
So then
thing. It's a lot riskier, but you're getting the same almost the same principle that layout one ruin. It just becomes this weird ruin here.
exactly. And then you're putting the demon prince over here so that turn 1, he's almost every time going to move like basically right here. And then you're assaulting and double moving this unit forward, trying to get like somewhere around here where you can threaten like that angle
Yep. Put charges into
or
this here. Like
straight across
get all
there.
this, and then because often people like playing this map, people like kind of this like this area here. I'll steal these angles. Like this area here is often where people deploy a lot of stuff because you basically have this thing behind one unit behind this wall and behind this, and the rest of the stuff you want to hide it, like you have to put it here, which means they're like if you push this unit up, you're shooting that. This unit here is charging that, and then they're kind of like now like make a decision of do I turn my entire army around to like go take my expansion back, or do I start like going after their expansion, which obviously your expansion isn't that defended because it's like spawn or like Bogos there, but then they're ignoring 30 Terminators.
Exactly. And that's kind of where the Zangor would come into play. A lot of times I'll use this spot here just for a unit of Zangor that can get their turn 1. I would generally send the Bogots because they have the reactive move. Try to park them here-ish.
Because I
Either
can
on
just
advanced
react and move on your objective is always just annoying because they send us a unit up like 10 like 12 into a unit jump here. Oh, I can shoot you. You run away D3 inches like they three. You're out of charging range now, and then they
exactly.
push
The
off your
idea
objective,
is
but
just
you saw
because
the
these
unit.
are separate ruins, you want
Yeah.
to try to hop back like this so you can cut off their line of sight, and then next
Mm-hmm.
turn you can walk back on to deny them primary.
Yeah.
And then again, the idea is, it depends on the matchup, right? Sometimes you send the spawn over here just because maybe, JPI are a great example. Like, JPI generally doesn't kill spawn unless they oath a moment it. So, maybe you are threatening to put the spawn on here saying, hey, you have to send a real unit to come kill this. So you're basically just trying to say, in this game plan, I'm going to sacrifice my chaff to try to not really hold like what would have been my natural, but stop you from scoring it for at least
Yeah,
a turn
because
or two
you're basically
while
making
I
this your
push
new natural here
this
because
way.
you're putting all your and then notably you can just bring a Rubik's squad here and just shoot the unit that took the objective back, and then you do take the objective
Exactly.
back.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I think that's pretty much everything that we wanted to cover here. We covered basically how the army works, a little bit of a practical example there on TTS. But yeah, thank you very much for your time for this little interview, just like kind of going over the list. I think it was very insightful, and hope people enjoy it.
Yeah, no worries, man. Anytime.
Yeah. But yeah, everyone, I thank you guys for watching, and thank you for taking time. If you want to hear more from Dan, he's in the Thousands Discord server. You can find him there. He had a very good write up, like on the specific games he played at LVO. Which, if you're more interested in that side of the list, you can look there. And then I should be returning back with some more videos in the near future, and hopefully a 8-man team tournament that should be coming up in the next few weeks. I'll be launching. But yeah, everyone, thanks for watching. You have a great rest of your day. Bye bye.
Cool. Take care.